A bizarre situation has emerged around Stranger Things as the final season approaches, and it involves Millie Bobby Brown filing serious workplace allegations against her on-screen father figure, David Harbour. This isn't some obscure gossip floating around fan forums. Major entertainment publications like Variety have confirmed the story. According to reports, Brown, who portrays Eleven in the Netflix phenomenon, submitted formal harassment and bullying documentation against Harbour, the actor playing her adoptive dad character, right before production kicked off for Season 5 this past January. Sources speaking to the Daily Mail described the filing as extensive. There were pages and pages of accusations, one insider revealed. The investigation stretched across several months. What's particularly interesting, the final determination of that investigation remains under wraps, though sources clarify the allegations didn't venture into inappropriate territory, strictly workplace bullying behavior. Here's where it gets even stranger. Brown reportedly required a personal legal advocate present during every moment of filming for the final season, and if you've been following the promotional cycle, you might have noticed Harbour's conspicuous absence from press appearances. Yeah, he's been confirmed as sitting out the publicity tour entirely. What makes this particularly eyebrow-raising is Harbour's public persona. The guy positioned himself as a vocal, progressive voice in Hollywood. Now he's allegedly exposed as someone who created a hostile work environment. Funny how that pattern keeps repeating itself, isn't it? But let's pump the brakes for a second. I'm not exactly a Harbour superfan, but I'd prefer concrete details here. What specifically happened? If we're talking about him saying someone performed poorly one day, that's workplace friction. But if this involved systematic oppressive conduct, that's a completely different conversation. You'd assume someone wouldn't pursue legal harassment complaints unless the situation crossed serious boundaries, not just a heated exchange during one stressful production day. Here's a reality check, though. This is Hollywood. We're talking about an industry where intense personalities collide constantly. Bryce Dallas Howard didn't file protective orders against Christian Bale after his legendary on-set eruption. You know, that audio everyone still references. She probably found it entertaining, honestly. I would have. So what's really driving this? For context, Harbour rode a wave of industry momentum for a while. He seemed positioned like Pedro Pascal before Pascal became unavoidable, suddenly appearing in everything, receiving significant studio backing, seemingly building an unstoppable career trajectory. Then it all plateaued. He's obviously still in Stranger Things, but he's hardly dominating box office conversations anymore. What's bizarre about his trajectory is how his role selection evolved. I first noticed him in Stranger Things Season 1, where he delivered genuinely solid work. Then he started gravitating toward roles featuring humiliation. He became the bumbling, incompetent father figure archetype. That transformation happened within Stranger Things itself. His character devolved into comic relief. Then came Red Guardian, where he's essentially a punchline throughout. It's like he actively pursued degradation. Meanwhile, he couldn't stop broadcasting his political opinions publicly. And now we're seeing controversy pile up. This isn't isolated to Brown either. His relationship drama with Lily Allen keeps generating headlines. They just separated, actually. Rumors suggest infidelity on his part, though apparently she wasn't exactly faithful either. But she's now releasing an entire album processing it, because apparently the world's desperately awaiting new Lily Allen music. You were culturally relevant 2 decades ago, maybe. She's a musician. That's her outlet, her revenge vehicle. He'd need to make a film about her if he wanted equivalent payback as an actor. Fair point about the bumbling dad roles, though. Are there alternative father portrayals available in contemporary Hollywood? Let's be honest. But he seems to pursue them aggressively. It's like he gravitates toward embarrassment. There's actually a Twitter account dedicated to this phenomenon, white men being stupid in commercials. Absolutely brilliant feed documenting this exhausting trope. Sadly predictable pattern. In Harbour's situation, shortly after achieving recognition, he became an aggressive advocate for every trending cause. Situations like this always remind me of that timeless observation. Those who preach most fervently typically conceal the most. Again, I'm not rushing to condemn before facts emerge fully, but Millie Bobby Brown doesn't appear to have a pattern of fabricating accusations. She probably wouldn't pursue this without legitimate justification. I understand that logic, no smoke without fire and everything, but I wish we had even a single concrete example. One specific comment he made. Anything tangible. It would be darkly comedic if the bullying was just him saying, "Why do you look 40 years old suddenly? What even happened there? Should she sue that surgeon? Remember when Gal Gadot complained that Joss Whedon dismissed her script suggestions, told her to be quiet, and threatened career destruction? People expressed outrage initially. These days, reactions would probably be more indifferent. She's definitely fallen from grace. But isn't that my point exactly? Haven't we all experienced difficult bosses? If the environment becomes intolerable, you leave. Can I sue now because someone hurt my feelings at work once? You're not a woman in Hollywood, so different rules apply, obviously." Valid distinction. But here's what's peculiar. These accusations suggest he never bullied her across 4 seasons, only during this final one. Why the sudden behavioral shift? If this represents serial harassment, wouldn't the studio negotiate some arrangement like, "Don't go public until we complete Stranger Things"? Filming, not just shooting, but promotion and release too. Maybe something along those lines. But during those gaps between seasons, rumors typically surface if someone's genuinely problematic. It feels suspicious that these issues emerge precisely when both careers are winding down. What's Millie Bobby Brown doing post-Stranger Things anyway? Enola Holmes 3. The Electric State sequel seems likely, right? That was such a massive success. Both their trajectories seem to be hitting rough patches. Only now do allegations surface, like he supposedly tripped her walking to the restroom or tied her shoelaces together. If that's the actual situation, that would represent the most cynical career move imaginable, throwing your co-star under the bus just to generate relevance and public sympathy. Absolutely ruthless. She hasn't made memorable impressions beyond Stranger Things for anyone. This connects to a broader pattern with franchise actresses. Once they're released from those contractual obligations, they float aimlessly. Now that she's untethered, anxiety about future prospects kicks in. Not just her, everyone follows similar patterns. There are typically 2 paths here. What we're witnessing with Brown, manufactured controversy, strategic harassment claims. The alternative, the Scarlett Johansson approach. Spend your 20s happily leveraging sex appeal, wearing revealing outfits, maximizing that conventional attractiveness for every possible paycheck. Then approaching 40, suddenly decide you were exploited and traumatized the entire time. Funny how those revelations arrive after cashing all those checks. The 2 paths are basically, I want to escape typecasting and expand my range, versus, I'll play this character forever if you keep paying me. Job security versus artistic ambition. Brown isn't going to shatter expectations or win Oscars. Enola Holmes 1 and 2 were objectively terrible. I feel somewhat sympathetic because her entire career has been defined by her ability to cry on command, and every subsequent script forces her to do it repeatedly throughout each film. Maybe that's the bullying. Harbour just kept making her cry. Maybe he's her emotional trigger. So what? She just recalls the time he tied her shoelaces or knocked food from her hands at craft services? It feels like something relatively minor that she's now amplifying dramatically. One of those best legal representatives, months of investigation producing nothing substantial, nothing inappropriate, must be fairly surface-level issues, probably isolated to one season because if it's merely being difficult and unprofessional, your career recovers eventually. But anything implying harassment crosses into career-ending territory. You're essentially blacklisted permanently. Didn't she also criticize a Variety journalist in another article about discussing her appearance and sexualizing her? It seems like she's maximizing publicity opportunities. If I were in her position approaching that final Stranger Things season, absolutely I'd extract maximum publicity value. There's probably nothing significant waiting beyond this. Going from producers begging you to extend contracts and continue appearing, then suddenly hearing, "You're finished now." But ultimately, the core problem is she's asking the public to adjudicate her grievances with zero evidence, no contextual understanding, and no information allowing fair judgment. Someone cut straight to the truth. Nobody's discussing her body. We're discussing her terrible styling choices and how she dresses decades older than her age.